I got the best revenge on my horrible boss.
Welcome friends to another r/pro revenge video. If you're a true professional, then you'd already know the best way to help support my channel is to hit the like and subscribe buttons down below. That said, our story of the day is by Metal Dude. Horrible boss blocks my promotion and other job prospects, so I go Liam Neeson on his butt. Best revenge I've ever had. I stumbled upon revenge stories here on Reddit about 2 weeks ago, and it dawned on me, I have an excellent revenge story myself. Why not share it with you guys? This happened a few years ago, and because I recently left the company, I feel it's safe to share the story here. I, then 35-year-old male, was working in a major wholesale company in Belgium. I was second in command at a large branch of this company. The branch manager, then 40-year-old male, was a complete butthead. Let's call him Stalin from now on. He also responds well to Antichrist or Satan, but let's keep it at Stalin. Other characters in the story are my girlfriend, 27-year-old female, Stalin's wife Cinderella, then 30-plus female, the big boss of the entire company, Big Boss, then 60-plus male, and one of the heads of a department at our branch, then 28-year-old female. Let's call her Naive Girl. I was working at this company for quite a while at this point in time. I always got along with my direct superiors and was now second in command. Well on my way to become branch manager myself one day, but then out of the blue, my old manager got promoted to headquarters and was replaced by a new manager. Introducing Stalin. The guy was a few years older than me and introduced himself to the team as someone who gets things done and that we will grow into the most successful branch of the company under his wings. He also didn't like the word can't, claiming to be deaf to that word. He was a winner and only surrounds himself with other winners. Roll eyes. Everyone immediately knew we had a character on our hands. From week one, it was clear to everyone that Stalin didn't know the first thing about the company and what we were selling, and he didn't know anything about leading a team and working with people. He always knew everything better than others and had the annoying tendency to let other people do most of his work. So yeah, as second in command, I suddenly had a lot on my plate. I'm not gonna bore you with the details, but my full-time job just became 2 full-time jobs because I had to do most of Stalin's work too. As in, here you go, and never expect a thank you or good job. So Stalin was a terrible boss. Surely things couldn't get any worse than this, now could they? Spoiler alert, but yes they could. One day, I was working and I got a telephone call. The person on the other side of the line introduced himself as an important manager of our biggest competitor. For such an important manager, his French was really bad, so I already figured something was fishy. And why would a competitor call me and introduce himself as being an important person? Turns out this manager was offering me a job at their company if I was willing to share any company secrets of my current employer and maybe try and steal some customers away to the competitor's company. I didn't buy into this absurd conversation, but I remained friendly and respectfully declined his offer. 1 hour later, I get called into Stalin's office. He then confronted me with the phone call and told me he was testing me to see if I was loyal to the company and to him. He ended this baffling conversation with the words, "And I will continue to test you from time to time in the future." What the heck? The guy prank called me himself to test my loyalty? While I was drowning in work because I had to do most of his work as well? And the jerk over here was spending his newly required free time by doing crap like this? Who does this? This is the stuff you see in bad comedies, not in real life. Things got even worse in the weeks to come. Stalin began to do less and less of his work. There were even times when I came into his office to ask for some help, only to find him reading the newspaper or even playing online poker. He didn't even try to hide it. After all, why should he? He was so superior, remember? When we didn't hit our mark and our results weren't as good as anticipated, he would round everybody up and yell at us. He was expecting results from now on, and he wouldn't hesitate to fire people if they didn't have what it took, all the while without doing anything himself. To make things worse, he fired some people who were easily fired, new workers without a long-term contract, to set an example, and he didn't replace them to lower costs. So now everybody was working 40+ hours on a 35-hour contract just to keep the branch up and running. Well, almost everybody. Naive Girl, the head of a small yet important department, stopped working at noon every single Friday. And Stalin himself sure didn't do 40+ hours. Nuh-uh. Every Tuesday he was gone by 2 p.m., his weekly Thai massage and relaxing spa. Every Thursday he'd come in later and later. Turns out Wednesday evening was soccer training. He was the coach of a team in the lowest amateur division, so after training he was busy drinking beer like there was no tomorrow. On top of this, every Friday afternoon he was gone as well. He told us that he always went to headquarters in Brussels then. Meetings with the board and the big boss. I recognize BS when I see it. My former managers never had to do this. Also very mysterious, but he's gone every Friday, just like Naive Girl. You already know where I'm heading with this, but that's for later. Some juicy stuff coming up. Stalin also got a lot of pleasure from calling certain people into his office and yelling at them in person, threatening them with their job if they didn't start working harder and more. He especially seemed to target the youngest and newest employees and, if possible, the females. I don't recall him ever treating more mature male coworkers like this, but we, as a team, made things work and we hit our target a few months in a row. It helped that a local competitor went out of business, of course, but still, we did very well compared to the other branches in Belgium, Netherlands, and Luxembourg. So at the New Year's reception, a company tradition, all the major branch managers and second managers are there. Stalin got called on stage, where the big boss, the head of the entire company, handed him over an award, Manager of the Year. Instead of thanking his employees, this sack of poop started thanking the big boss for the faith he had given him, thanked his pregnant wife, and then he started complimenting himself. He was a good manager with a nose for good business and he knows how to get the best out of people, blah blah blah. I nearly vomited. It was disgusting to watch. And then the applause he received. This was his moment and he wanted everybody to know. The next day, the trophy he received, a cheap piece of metal, was on a especially designed piece of furniture in the middle of his office. Honestly, Stalin reminded me a bit of Steve Carell of The Office at this point, but the evil version with an even bigger ego. A few weeks later, I was working late again, and by sheer luck, I glanced over at the security camera and I was in shock. I witnessed Stalin kissing with one of our heads of a department, more or less a third person in command, in the parking lot. Naive Girl and Stalin? She was a bit of an odd girl. A pretty girl, but I always had the feeling she didn't really have all of her marbles in place. She actually went to the same high school and university as my girlfriend, so the two knew each other without being friends. Small world. This will be important later. So Naive Girl was dating Stalin? I thought she was smarter than this. And wait a minute, didn't Stalin thank his wife during that terrible speech at New Year? His pregnant wife? Oh, what a jerk, he's cheating on his pregnant wife. Just when I thought this guy couldn't get any worse? Because I knew he was the worst of the worst. To show off his power to anyone, and especially me who he couldn't control or threaten in a face-to-face conversation, he had this annoying habit of controlling everyone's vacation days like a Roman emperor who's controlling the faith of the fallen gladiators. In his first year as a manager, I requested a vacation in October, somewhere in April, and he denied me that week, only to grant me the leave of absence 2 weeks before I was supposed to go on holiday. I was planning on going to Greece with my girlfriend and her family, but because I didn't get my holiday approved in time, my girlfriend's family decided to postpone and go another time. My girlfriend and her father didn't apply for a vacation because of this. Stalin didn't just screw me over, he screwed my in-laws and girlfriend over as well. He refused to give me that holiday, only to grant it to me afterwards to show me he's the boss. And it cost me my trip to Athens. He truly was a major D-bag. The guy's ego had gotten so large, it deserved its own national flag by this point. I swear to God, if it got any bigger, astronauts would easily spot it from space, just like the Chinese wall. I hated that jerk. The next year came, and because I witnessed him doing this to other employees and myself, I figured I needed a plan. I proceeded in requesting to have my holiday approved and, surprise surprise, Stalin denied me my vacation again. He claimed he needed me at work that month because of an inventory, which is done by other people, not myself. But this time, I had a plan. He needed me because I did my job, and on top of that, I did most of his job as well. Everything he didn't like about his job, basically everything with numbers, accountancy, paperwork, etc., I had to do it. He couldn't afford to lose me. So I decided to try one of his own tricks on him. I called in and pretended I was the manager of another company. I told Stalin that I had received the resume of OP and was informing to know what kind of employee he is. I can do different accents and voices, so this was a piece of cake for me. The plan was for Stalin to know that I was looking for another job and that he could lose me, forcing him to do his job himself. Scary stuff. So the plan was for him to give me my days off just to please me. Stalin believed I was another manager because he put on his important person voice and started to thrash talk me as an employee. I was unreliable, always late for work, sloppy, forgot things that are important, etc. You get the picture. It wasn't pretty. In order to prevent me from getting another job, Captain Jerk over here decided to talk bad about me to potential new employers. What a jerk! What a horrible waste of oxygen this guy was. But at least it gave him a scare, because the next day, my request for a holiday got magically approved. He never confronted me with applying for jobs elsewhere though. Mission accomplished. I got to plan that trip to Greece with my girlfriend and her family. They're Greek Belgians. I was finally going. Fun fact, but no, I wasn't going. After I booked and paid for everything, he came back on his word. 1 month before I was supposed to go on a holiday, he called me into his office and told me he had to go on an important business meeting in Prague. And because one of us two had to be at work, he had no choice but to cancel my holiday. I was speechless for a moment, but started thinking really quick. So I demanded that he put this on paper because my girlfriend would not be amused. He laughed, agreed, and sent me an email confirming my holiday got canceled because he had to go to Prague. Little did he know, I was building a case against him and I needed this on paper. The moron actually believed it was just to show my girlfriend I had no choice but to cancel our plans. Now, if this were true, then yeah, I would understand it, but I knew he was lying. I just knew it. But I couldn't prove a thing. I had enough though. I really had enough. Working for this man was impossible and he was standing in my way. I had heard through the grapevine that he had blocked my internal promotions. See, I know a lot of people at headquarters, and someone had told me how he branded me as incompetent for seeking a better paid, higher up job within the company. He wanted me where I was at that moment, as a second in command who would do all of his work. This meant he was blocking my promotions and was preventing me from getting a nice job elsewhere. I heard firsthand how he down-talked my abilities. Sure, I have flaws as everybody else, but I'm not the screw-up he painted me to be to potential employers. I needed to find a new job. But Mr. Stalin over here was blocking every good opportunity. As long as he was in charge of the branch, I was basically his serf, bound to the company and bound to him as my lord. I needed a way out but didn't know how to do it. But then Lady Luck walked into the room. The week I was supposed to go to Greece, Stalin went on his business trip. Or so he told me. My girlfriend went to Athens with her family and saw something on Facebook. She called me and told me to open my WhatsApp. Girlfriend had sent me some screenshots from her Facebook. Turns out naive girl was posting pictures of her with Stalin in Switzerland. He went skiing with her. There was no business trip. That absolute disgrace of a human being had canceled my holiday for the second year in a row so he could cheat on his wife with a younger woman. Oh, how I hated this dude. He did not expect my girlfriend and myself to see these pictures though. Little did he know that girlfriend and naive girl knew each other and were Facebook friends. No contact in real life whatsoever, so Stalin really had no idea. It gave me the fuel I needed. I had proof he was cheating on his wife. Not just that, you see. Now here's where things got really interesting. Only 2 weeks before this, I was networking at a company after drink, and I started talking to the manager of another branch, a direct equal to Stalin. I already had a few drinks, so I was a bit loose and therefore did little to hide the fact that I disliked Stalin, and what do you know? That other manager didn't like Stalin either. Turned out Stalin only got his job because his wife is the daughter of the owner, Big Boss. This explained everything. The guy was so unqualified for the job, he only got the job because daddy-in-law threw him a bone. So not only was he cheating on his wife, he was cheating on the big boss's pregnant daughter. Oh snap! Can I get a hallelujah? The universe was smiling upon me at last, and now I had proof, pictures of him kissing another woman. Time to set things in motion. So my girlfriend was in Athens without me, and Stalin was in Switzerland getting laid. I was stuck at work and things were difficult because we were understaffed. I decided to send an email to all branch managers, plus the big boss who never responds, asking for extra help and that I couldn't ask my manager because he's on a business trip and asked not to be disturbed. I knew he told the big boss he was on a holiday because he had to hand in a request to get that holiday. So him being on a business trip made no sense, and I knew that. I wanted Big Boss to know that Stalin told us a lie. I didn't have a direct line to Big Boss. Heck, I only talked to the guy 2 to 3 times during my time at the company, so I needed to draw his attention in a sneaky way. This email caught his attention, alright. The Big Boss immediately replied to me, telling me Stalin's on a holiday, and that he'll inform him that the request for backup was granted. I made subtle contact with the Big Boss. Now I had an email conversation going. I say, no, he told us he's on a business trip. That's why he canceled my holiday. Big Boss replied, he's visiting an old school friend in Switzerland. I'll get you some extra workforce myself. I say, here's the email in which he canceled my holiday. I forward Big Boss the email Stalin sent me in my request. I say he clearly wrote he had to go on a business trip. Big Boss replies, I'll talk to him about this. That's odd. Maybe he wasn't paying attention. I'll call him this afternoon and sort this out. Thank you and keep up the good work. The day after, Stalin calls me from Switzerland. Big Boss did call him and this took Stalin by surprise. And Stalin doesn't like surprises. Little did he know that this was just the beginning. I was prepared and decided to record the phone call. He went berserk on the phone. A little paraphrasing, he said, "You are nothing. I can squash you like a fly. If I decide to take your holiday, there's nothing you can do about it. You're gonna sit there like a little girl and take it all like the witch you are." Yes, he was very female friendly. The Big Boss doesn't need to know I told you I was on a business trip. I don't owe anyone an explanation. You leave that senile old fart out of this, you hear me? At that moment, a light shined down on me from the heavens. I got him. It was just one sentence, but it was pure gold. Senile old fart. I bet rich daddy-in-law will have a field day with this one. I wanted more proof. I was like frickin' Sherlock or Columbo at this point. If he was having an affair, maybe those pictures wouldn't do. He could claim those were old pictures or something, I don't know. Didn't want to take the chance he'd talk his way out of it. So I needed more proof. Where was he going every Friday afternoon? Surely he was meeting Naive Girl somewhere. I needed to know where. Then a light bulb started glowing above my head. His emails. He once gave me his password to the company email address so I could access his work emails. Because this way I could do more of his work, you know? His password was the name of his favorite Belgian soccer team. It's actually the biggest rival of my team. You can't make this stuff up. The guy was my antagonist in everything he touched. Would this password work on his personal email address as well? Surely he can't be that big of an idiot. But he was, of course. Mr. Idiot had the exact same password for everything. I found out he was on Tinder. I found out he was emailing with a chick from the Philippines, he must have met her there, and I found all the emails he sent with Naive Girl. Apparently it started way in the beginning, so they'd been seeing each other even before he got his Cinderella pregnant. Gotcha. As the Mission Impossible tune started playing, I began to unfold my plan. Stalin was now back from his little trip and acted like nothing happened. I could still access his email, so I checked every few days or so. On Wednesday, I struck gold again. He received an email confirmation of a visit to the Spiel Wellness for 2 people at 3 p.m. and a confirmation of a visit to a certain restaurant at 6 p.m. also for 2 people. Both were for Friday. I wonder who he was going with. Checkmate, gotcha again. The timing was right for the next and final phase of my execution plan. I had printed out the pictures from Naive Girl's Facebook. Stalin kissing with Naive Girl, them skiing, them having drinks together, and Stalin in front of the Swiss flag in front of a cabin. Classic stuff. He was such a grateful model. I had put these pictures in an envelope and put a little note in it. It said something along the lines of, "Hey, we don't know each other, but I felt you needed to see this and know that your husband's having an affair." He didn't go to Switzerland to visit some old school friend. No, he went there with this chick. Her name is Naive Girl. This is her address. This is her email and this is her Facebook and phone number. She isn't a bad person. I don't even know if she knows he's married and has a kid. He told his boss he was in Switzerland to visit an old friend and told his coworkers he was on a business trip in Prague. Both are lies. He's having an affair with a girl from his work. I've hacked your husband's email and found some interesting stuff. You can read it for yourself. His password is Anderlecht. Please take your time in reading these emails and check the last mails he received. They're meeting up at Name of Restaurant at 6 p.m. today. Before this, they're going to the spa resort at 3 p.m. I'm sorry to throw this in your face. I know it's a lot, but you deserve better than this scumbag. Signed, Anonymous. I had some reservations as to include this poor girl, Cinderella, into my revenge. I was about to destroy her world too, and she didn't deserve this. But my girlfriend convinced me. She said if it were you and you were cheating on my pregnant butt, I'd want to know sooner rather than later. She needs to know, OP. That particular Friday, I called work to say I'd be a little later that day because I had car problems. First time I was late in years. Instead, I drove to Stalin and Cinderella's place and dropped the envelope in their front door mailbox and rang the doorbell, after which I quickly went away. I knew Cinderella was home alone, her car was in the driveway and she was still home with a newborn. Stalin was at work. I then went to work where I sent an email to the big boss. I told Big Boss that Stalin was skipping work a lot and that it was too much for my team and myself to keep dealing with. I told the big boss that I was going to resign because of this. I ended the email with the following, and I included a voice recording you'd find very interesting to hear for yourself. It's Stalin calling me right after you called him in Switzerland. It only took 15 minutes and my phone rang. It was Big Boss himself calling me on my company phone. Oh shoot, even better than I hoped for. Big Boss told me he was amazed by how Stalin talked to me and about him and thanked me for sending this to him. He told me he would talk to Stalin about this and asked me to wait with my resignation for the time being. He would straighten things out. I say he'll just deny everything, and as soon as you end the phone conversation with him, he'll project his anger on me. Big Boss says, no, I'm visiting my daughter and grandson this afternoon, and I'll swing by at work before that. It's not that far apart. Ding, ding, ding. Did he just say he was visiting his daughter? The daughter I just nuked to smithereens with the news of her husband cheating on her? The same husband Big Boss wants to talk with before visiting his daughter? Maybe I should play the national lottery this afternoon because everything felt like it was going my way. I decided to keep my mouth shut about the cheating, well, duh, but also about him being absent this afternoon. I was originally planning on complaining to the big boss that Stalin was never in on a Friday afternoon, luring the big boss to that restaurant at 6 p.m. But this was even better. No, let the big boss come in and see for himself that Stalin just wasn't there. 12 a.m., naive girl said bye-bye to everyone and off she went. 12:15 a.m., Stalin shut down his computer and left the office as well, without saying goodbye of course. Emperors don't talk to peasants and plebs. 16 a.m., the big boss entered the building. It was showtime, witches. Big Boss was clearly and visibly upset with something. Could it be his daughter showed him some naughty pictures already? Did he visit her first? He asked me where Stalin was, and I swear to God, Leonardo DiCaprio should hand me over his Oscar immediately. I acted all surprised and said, "Oh, you were coming here to talk to Stalin? I must have misunderstood at the phone. Why didn't you talk to him in Brussels, at headquarters? He's there every Friday, no?" The big boss looked surprised. I deserve that Oscar, I really do, and went like, "What do you mean?" I say, "He always leaves at noon every Friday because he's meeting you every week in Brussels. Or at least that's what he's told us." I could see the dominoes inside Big Boss's head start falling as Big Boss's face went blank. He took his phone and called someone. He took a few steps back, but I overheard some parts of the conversation. I think he was calling his daughter because he said, "No, he's not here. Apparently he went somewhere." I can only imagine his daughter telling him about the emails and the information I gave her about the restaurant and spa resort. Looked like she hadn't told him that part yet. Big Boss says, "Oh really? I know that place. Okay, I'll come over." Big Boss then thanked me and said he'd take care of this and ended it with the classical, "Keep up the good work," as he left the room. I was full of questions that entire weekend. What had happened? All I know is that when I came in at work that Monday morning, Stalin was nowhere to be seen. Instead, there was some guy from headquarters telling us Stalin won't be in that week and that he'd be replacing him temporarily. Stalin never came back though, and after a month or so, they appointed a new manager. Years later, I was working in Brussels at headquarters. I got that promotion, and I befriended a member of the board. During a business meal, we started talking, and when I mentioned I used to be a second in command under Stalin, the guy started laughing. "That guy?" he said. "Man, let me tell you a story." The board member then filled in all the blanks I had for all of these years, not knowing I was the one who talked Stalin into the gallows, of course. Apparently, Stalin really did get the manager job because of his relationship with the big boss, being son-in-law. He was the golden kid and Big Boss had big plans for Stalin. He was supposed to take over the company when Big Boss retired, but it turned out he was cheating on Big Boss's daughter with a few women and was also stealing time from the company by not being at work when he was supposed to be there. All stuff I already knew, of course, but hey, I was still an A-list Hollywood actor, so I acted all surprised and stuff. Apparently, Big Boss and his daughter Cinderella walked in on him when he was in a restaurant with one of his mistresses. Oh, how I wanted to be a fly on the wall when that went down. I'd give my left testicle to see this whole event unfolding before my eyes. He then told me Cinderella divorced him, threw him out of the house, and Big Boss didn't fire him. They were afraid of the legal implications, but instead demoted him to a meaningless position in the southern part of Belgium where people speak French. Stalin did not speak French. He only spoke West Flemish, which is like the hardest Dutch dialect known to man, so most native Dutch speakers, especially those from the Netherlands, didn't understand him either. Seriously love the people from West Flanders, but they speak a different language than other mortals out there. Klingon is easier to understand. Needless to say, Stalin was lost over there. He did not fit in, had no friends, no connections, no more power, and on top of it all, he did not understand the language. He quit the company after a few more months and was now working in a low-wage job. As for Naive Girl, she walked away unharmed. We never talked about it though. She met someone else and married the dude a year later. Girlfriend and myself were invited to the wedding. Big Boss retired a few years later and sold the company to a foreigner. He didn't have anyone to succeed him, but the millions he received did miracles to soften that. His daughter apparently went back to the guy she dated before Stalin. They were still a couple the last time I heard. I don't feel bad for Stalin, not one bit. I'm not the kind of person who enjoys other people's misery, nor am I a sociopath. But this guy really boiled my kidneys, if you know what I mean. I never met such a narcissist, self-centered jerk in my entire life, and he wanted to destroy my life and the lives of many other people. As far as I'm concerned, I stopped him before he could do any more damage and saved my own career in the process. His wife's better off without him, the company's better off without him, my colleagues are better off without him, and I am better off without him. So after hearing that mega story of ultimate pro-revenge, do you think everything that OP did here was ethically or morally okay considering how far Stalin was going? Let me know in the comments down below. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. If you haven't yet, if you could like and subscribe, that would mean the world to me. Whatever you do, whether it's liking, subscribing, turning notifications on, all of it helps grow this channel and I appreciate the heck out of it. So until next time, I'll see you all tomorrow with some more stories.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe.